On a humid July evening in 1990, Officer Kenneth Hicks spots a van with a broken taillight on Shoreline Drive in Gulf Breeze, Florida. Inside, he finds 19-year-old Michael Hueckstaedt, an NSA intelligence analyst who should be 7,000 miles away at his post in West Germany. What began as a routine traffic stop would expose one of the strangest military desertion cases in American history. 6 NSA analysts, a Ouija board, and supernatural messages that reached the highest levels at the Pentagon. Days earlier, Hueckstaedt and 5 colleagues had abandoned their posts at Field Station Augsburg, the National Security Agency's largest listening station outside the U.S. These weren't ordinary AWOL soldiers. They were elite analysts with top-secret clearances, trusted with some of America's most sensitive surveillance operations. Authorities quickly rounded up the remaining deserters. Sergeant Annette Eccleston, 22, the group's senior-ranking member. Specialists Kenneth Hicks and Vance Davis, both 25, and seasoned intelligence analysts. And privates first class William Setterberg and Chris Perlock, both 20. They were found scattered between a local apartment and a nearby campground, carrying thousands in cash and extensive handwritten notes detailing communications with supernatural entities. How did 6 of America's most trusted intelligence analysts come to abandon their posts for messages from beyond? The answer began on a winter night in 1989 with a Ouija board session that would change their lives forever. The Entity Is SAF. We were doing a lot of parapsychology research. We did tarot cards, all that kind of stuff, explained Vance Davis. We were trying to disprove all of this stuff, until the Ouija board happened. What started as an exercise in skepticism took a dramatic turn by the 3rd session. The group claimed contact with an entity calling itself SAF, alongside figures they believed were biblical, including the Virgin Mary. The messages began as cryptic warnings, then evolved into detailed instructions. SAF directed them to a woman in Munich known only as Gabriel, who allegedly handed over documents about UFO activity and government cover-ups. Then the entity revealed something even more startling: 2 warring alien factions. The Alliance supposedly championed free will, while the others were conducting abductions and experiments. Most disturbing to the analysts was SAF's claim that the US government was collaborating with these entities. The prophecies grew more specific and more convincing. SAF predicted an earthquake in Iran, including its precise death toll, 30 days before it struck. The Iran earthquake really got us moving, Davis recalled. For the analysts, this was proof that they were dealing with something beyond human. The peculiar nature of these messages was amplified by their setting. Field Station Augsburg wasn't just any military base. It was a critical piece of America's Cold War surveillance network. The analysts spent their days intercepting Soviet communications and monitoring Warsaw Pact activities, a surreal contrast to their evenings, where the paranormal consumed their focus. The messages began to take on an apocalyptic tone. SAF warned them of an impending US-European conflict and insisted they leave Europe immediately to prepare for their role to help lead the world through an impending cataclysm. Instructions were provided, and a destination was chosen. Quote, SAF had told us that Gulf Breeze would be safe, Davis wrote in his 1995 book, Unbroken Promises. Then we would stop in Texas to pick up our stuff and head for the mountain states to begin the rest of our lives and prepare for what was to come. The Gulf Breeze UFO Incident. The group's chosen destination of Gulf Breeze, Florida, was already steeped in UFO lore. In November 1987, a local building contractor named Ed Walters had captured what he claimed were photographs of an extraterrestrial craft hovering near his home in Gulf Breeze. According to his account in the Gulf Breeze Sentinel, Walters was, quote, briefly immobilized by a blue beam before managing to take 5 Polaroid photographs of the object, which he described as hovering approximately 200 feet above the ground. Over the following months, Walters would report multiple encounters, eventually amassing 32 photographs of the alleged craft and claiming to meet aliens that communicated telepathically. The photographs ignited a firestorm of controversy. Bruce Maccabee, an optical physicist and ufologist who investigated 5 of Walter's Polaroids, declared, quote, "I think there's a good chance it's the real thing." However, skeptics, including Ed Gray, the mayor of Gulf Breeze, concluded the images were fabricated. The debate intensified in 1990 when, after Walters moved, the new owners of his former home discovered a styrofoam model in the attic that closely resembled the UFO in his photographs. Despite the doubts, Gulf Breeze had become a pilgrimage site for UFO seekers. Hundreds arrived with cameras trained on the skies above Pensacola Bay. It was in this atmosphere of heightened supernatural expectation that the 6 NSA analysts would make their arrival. A broken plan. Sapphire's instructions aligned conveniently with Beeson and Perlock's prior connections to Gulf Breeze. During their earlier training at the nearby Naval Air Station Pensacola, they had befriended Anna Foster, a local psychic who would later offer them shelter. Their arrival also coincided with the Mutual UFO Network's annual symposium, scheduled for early July. The group's departure from Germany had the feel of a sacred ritual. Davis's book describes how they methodically destroyed records in what he called a spiritual cleansing. They distributed their belongings, like disciples preparing for ascension. Most importantly, they carefully preserved what they believed to be their smoking gun, documents from their mysterious Munich contact, Gabriel, that allegedly proved government collaboration with extraterrestrial beings. These papers would vanish into military custody after their arrest, never to resurface. Once in Gulf Breeze, they split up. 5 members stayed with Foster. Sergeant Eccleston camped alone at Fort Pickens. The group's behavior during this period revealed fracturing motivations. According to statements from their former unit in Germany, some members had spoken apocalyptically about their mission to, quote, find and destroy the Antichrist. Specifically, according to secondhand information from a military doctor who had supposedly interviewed the group, some members of the 6 believed Gulf Breeze's infamous UFO photographer, Ed Walters, was the Antichrist. They claimed this belief explained the area's unusual concentration of UFO activity. In conversations with family members, Beeson spoke of a more general mission to prepare for an imminent rapture in which the group would emerge as spiritual leaders. He also revealed a startling detail. Their group allegedly numbered 12, not 6. The operation's collapse came through what Davis would describe as a choice between divine guidance and human weakness. Sapphire had warned them to, quote, leave Gulf Breeze by Friday, but romantic entanglements led them to ignore their spirit guide's deadline. When Hueckstaedt's broken taillight caught the attention of local police, their divine mission came to an abrupt halt. Capture. What happened next defies conventional military logic. Desertion was a serious offense, punishable by court-martial. Yet, after being held briefly at Fort Benning, Georgia, the 6 were given minimal punishment, reduced rank, forfeiture of half a month's pay, and general discharges. Even General Colin Powell reportedly objected to the leniency. The Pentagon's handling of the case raised questions. Why would elite analysts, entrusted with classified information, receive such mild consequences? When case files were declassified years later, 1,400 of the 1,600 pages were redacted. UFO researcher Philip Coppens suggested in his analysis that the 6 may have been unwitting participants in a military experiment, perhaps testing the effectiveness of psychological operations or studying the impact of paranormal beliefs on intelligence personnel. Davis himself wrote of government surveillance of their activities, claiming that an operative had followed them on their flight from Germany but lost track of them in Atlanta. The investigation took several bizarre turns, including an unsigned typewritten note accompanied by photographs that was sent to major television networks demanding the group's release. Quote, "We have the missing plans," it declared cryptically, "the box of 500-plus photos, and the plans you want back." Once released, Pentagon records confirmed that 3 of the 6, Beeson, Eccleston, and Hueckstaedt, returned to Gulf Breeze within weeks of their discharge. More than 3 decades later, the Gulf Breeze 6 remain a mystery. Were they young soldiers swept up in supernatural delusions, victims of military experiments, or did they uncover something at their listening post in Augsburg that demanded their radical actions? Perhaps the most telling detail lies in what remains hidden, those 1,400 redacted pages, still sealed decades later. The 701st Military Intelligence Brigade, from which they deserted, would go on to win the prestigious Travis Trophy in 1991 for making the nation's most significant contribution to signals intelligence, an ironic bookend to a case that began with 6 of its analysts claiming to receive signals of a very different kind. What did 6 of America's most trusted intelligence analysts discover that made them abandon everything they'd worked for? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you for watching Dark 5. Like and subscribe to continue exploring the greatest mysteries of this world and beyond.